Hello friends, a very warm welcome to Ansarkari. I am Vikas Bhardwaj. Taking our series of making complex and contemporary dynamic topics simple, let's take up a very complex and a very contemporary issue, that is, has GST achieved one nation, one market? A very important. Let's have a grounded assessment so that you can write your answers, whether it is optional paper or whether it is general studies or whether quoting into essay and even during the personality test. You will be able to learn and you will be able to assess many ideas. So this is very true. You also know it in your notes, and as we have discussed number of times, that GST has substantially advanced, substantially advanced the goal of a unified national market by removing interstate barriers, harmonizing taxes, and also improving logistics efficiency. Now, these are the three key elements which actually makes any economy, any commerce, or any nation grow. And definitely we agree that GST has helped in this. But the question is the rate complexity, which is still a debatable point. Separately, we will discuss that. Compliance burdens, whether it is MSME, whether it is the organized sector, whether it is different bodies, and whether there are bodies which are operating online but not ready to being compliant and so forth, and also center state fiscal relations, especially if the state is a rule which is actually not the same party which is in the center. So the realization of the full vision, Viksit Bharat, how that's possible. Please note down the keywords. So what the government says, let's go by the data. So Ministry of Finance consistent position, and also what we have seen through data is that it has created a common national market, eliminated cascading taxes. If you are not writing these words in your answers, I'm sorry, you are not going to get score. And it has boosted interstate trade. You have to bring illustrations along with that. That means removal of entry tax, removal of octroi. In prelims you have read this term, and multiple state levies. So there is a uniform IT based compliance system, IT based compliance system which is uniform in nature. So there is seamless input tax credit. What is important is that it is seamless, and what is important is that it is across states. Because of this, there is a reduction in logistics time because dismantling of border checkpost is taking place. So what the GST did, it broke down historical barriers and streamlined interstate trade, thereby enabling unified market, and this must come in your 150 words answer. What Ministry of Commerce and Industry says, GST has reduced friction. It has reduced friction in the movement of goods across states. It has improved export competitiveness by refunding embedded taxes. And it has enhanced ease of doing business for supply chain heavy sectors. I'm sure you're able to get the keyword supply chain heavy sectors, refunding of the embedded taxes, and it is supported by the search results. If you go and search, then there are pre-GST inconsistencies in tax rates, audits, and penalties across states. It created distortions that GST has removed. So if you go and search, you will be finding these elements. What NITI Aayog says, that there is a major structural reform, but the rate rationalization, one point, and the compliance simplification still needed. Fiscal federalism is an issue because compensation says A, center state balance, B, it remains unresolved. It is an ongoing process. So GST has strengthened central oversight. That is very true, but it has created tensions over compensation and fiscal autonomy. So for states, you have to remember these two words, compensation and fiscal autonomy. So let's see. Interstate share increased, the trend after GST it is increased, indicating market integration. Logistic times reduced by 20 to 30% on the key corridors, removal of checkposts. GST collections are rising trend year on year, widening the tax base. Export refunds are faster and more automated, thereby reducing working capital burden. Compliance load, it is high for MSMEs, but it is limiting the ease of doing business, and the rate structure is still complex because we know that recently also the slabs were, they were changed, but it is not fully one tax. That is what you can bring. Let's see more. What business standard says that GST has reduced logistic cost and improves supply chain efficiency. We have already said, because in answers you can always quote business standard, always quote certain institutions. Compliance complexity, that is multiple returns, e-invoicing, frequent changes, they are burdening smaller firms. So rate rationalization is overdue, then only it will be truly seamless. But what Economic Times says, their reporting often highlights that it has boosted interstate trade flows. You can always write Economic Times, always write Indian Express, always write, Business Standard, always write whatever you want to code. I'm just trying to make you give a template. It is reducing tax arbitrage. System is still evolving because the tech-driven compliance is gradually increasing or improving. Center state disputes over compensations have slowed consensus-based reforms. So whether it is Tamil Nadu, whether it is Kerala, whether it is West Bengal, we have to find illustrations and see what are the grievances of the states. So what are the strengths if I see in the middle of our understanding and discussion? You will agree removal of state level entry taxes and check posts, uniform Mediterranean tax system, seamless input tax credit, improved logistic efficiency and greater formalization of economy. That's what you can just now conclude with us. But what about the sector-wise contribution? So what is the overall trend? It is increasing formalization across states. It is boosting interstate trade. It is improving logistic efficiency, increased tech buoyancy, that is even more than 2 lakh crores. You know, so that means there is actually a change towards betterment. So let's see how. In manufacturing, it is strongly positive because removal of entry tax and uniform ITC, it is boosted supply chains. There are industrial states which are showing highest GST revenue. We'll just see automobile, it is also very positive, faster interstate movements of components. E-commerce, very strong positive because GST enabled national warehousing models, a key word. There is a TCS mechanism formalized sellers. Logistics and transport, very very positive because border checkpost removal has cut transit time by 20 to 30%. Fuel saving is also there, faster turnaround is there. Real estate, it is mixed. GST subsumed many taxes, but input tax credit restrictions created cost pressure. That is a different ball game. MSME, mixed to negative, high compliance, e-invoicing, monthly returns, it must be more simple. Service sector is also mixed. Uniform 80% tax increase burden for some services and classification disputes are also there. And for exports also it is positive because of faster refunds, removal of cascading taxes is helping them. That means if we say key finding from comparative study between 2018 and 2024, there is a clear divide between high performing industrial states and low performing small states. How? Top performing states, if we say, which are high revenue contributors, these states have constantly contributed to highest tax GST revenue. You have to bring this. Why and how? For example, Maharashtra, high industrial base, service hub and high consumption. Karnataka, IT plus manufacturing, high service values, high value services. Tamil Nadu, manufacturing powerhouse, diversified economy. Gujarat, ports, petrochemicals and manufacturing. Uttar Pradesh, it is having a large population and rising formalization. That means all the above elements are somehow, somewhat, in some way are present in Uttar Pradesh also. That means high tax buoyancy and the strong correlation between GST revenue and the state growth. It is also reflecting towards rise and there is a better compliance infrastructure. That means mid-tier states, if they are going to work on the elements which are the high tier states are doing so Rajasthan, Haryana, West Bengal, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, because they have a moderate GST growth but stable in nature. So you have to think what one thing Andhra Pradesh must do so that it also comes to a high GST generator state. Same goes for Haryana, West Bengal, Rajasthan. So you have to think on your own, and that will be the game changer in your answers. Low performing states: Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Lakshadweep. It is predictable, but you have to bring one element: what the government is doing, whether it is connectivity, whether it is logistics, whether it is IT, and whether it is manufacturing, and whether it is services. What the government is doing and in which direction, that will be able to bring answer. So the reasons being of the states which are not doing so well because they have a small tax base, they have low industrialization which is moving. So Assam is an example in that regard. You have to see it as a rising example of the future and high informal sector presence. That means smaller states have modest collections and limited GST buoyancy. So I am giving you reasons and then I am giving you the data also. Real-time challenges after GST. Removal of interstate checkposts, reduced transit time, as I just told you, turnaround time improved significantly, national supply chain become efficient, but the question is, what is the cost? What is the cost? How NHAI and even the state governments, they are actually coordinating in that regard. And transportation, here you have to bring the role of dedicated freight corridor, DFC, or you have to bring the role of, are we putting into any kind of modernization for trucks, road, and even you have to bring on your own, what about the maritime, like we have the inland waterways, are they working in that regard? So that is how you have to make your answer more smarter by bringing these elements quickly. Compliance behavior, real-time e-invoicing, e-way bills have increased transparency. Monthly GST, as I just told you, it is increasing more than 2 lakh crore. And fraud detection. So bring the role of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, bring the role of Serious Fraud Investigation Office, bring the role, what more can be done in order to make sure that GST frauds are not taking place. And what about the civic behavior? What about the political leadership? These ideas also you must be bringing. Consumption patterns, they are showing that it is a real-time barometer of economic health, so that's good for us. We are one of the fewest economies in the world which have been growing up, but you have to bring the data. And also in that regard, you have to showcase by these elements what is agriculture doing, what about the employment structure, how poverty is declining by consumption, and so forth. So high frequency indicators, e-way bills, FASTag data, they are also correlating GST trends. Similarly, formalization, more firms. So that is why it is always coming for Uttar Pradesh, one district, one product scheme, and so forth. MSME is entering formal supply. Government is having so many schemes and programs by which they are even not only providing a lot of capital but also training. So you have to, your answer must be a kind of a critical, not it must be a summary narrative. You must bring challenges and answer to the challenge. Competition such disputes, it is creating center set tension, as I just told you. States with strong economies, they are rated better, and weaker states have been struggling. So the integrated assessment, if you want to do, then the unified national market, improved logistics, higher tax buoyancy, increased formalization, and better interstate trade flows. They are the positive results, but limitations being compliance burden on the MSMEs. I'm not saying you have to completely negative. Rate complexity also we have to see, center state tensions, uneven state performance, a very key word. Frequent rule changes means we were promised that it will be completely seamless, but then how it can be seamless in a state like India where topography, geography, regional imbalance, and even such diversity, and also speciality of each state which is there. All states are not equal in any ways, so it will always be remaining like this, but it can be made more efficient, it can be made more smarter. So the service sector, which is still facing classification disputes, is one of the elements in this regard. That is why final verdict we can say clearly transformed India's sectoral landscape, and it has widened performance gap between states and created measurable time improvements in logistics and tax administration. But the full realization still requires rate rationalization, simpler compliance, stronger support for low performing states, which is already government of India is doing. That is why low performing states, they are no more remaining low. If you think about the Bimaru states in the past, so you have to think that what India is thinking about 2047. What about the aspirations of the Gen Z? What is the consumption pattern? What kind of employment is being there? And then only you will make more sense with the GST. So thank you very much for being with us in this lecture. I'm sure that your honesty, integrity, sincerity, smartness is bound to get us success together.